Hello, welcome to everyone. I'm trialing out the new TikTok feature, which is the live studio. So I don't know if you guys can hear me. If you guys can let me know whether you guys can hear me or not, and whether you can see my screen, that would be great. Can you guys hear me okay? It's a bit of a new view, so I don't know whether this is going to be better or worse. You guys can hear me. Fantastic. Very good. And you can see. Does it look better or worse than usual? What do you guys think? Is this a better way of doing the lives, or is it worse? Oh, it's fine. Okay, cool. We'll trial this out. We'll see. Oh, some people are saying better. Okay. We'll see whether this is better or worse. And then it's different. Yeah. I don't know. TikTok invited me to use this feature where instead of recording it from my phone, you guys can actually see my desktop. So we're going to trial this out. So welcome to all of you guys. Welcome if you are joining for the first time, and welcome if you are somebody who joins on a regular as well. We're going to be doing some combined science today. Okay, we're going to be doing some combined science revision. So, well, I say combined science. It's combined science and triple science stuff that you all need to know. But it includes the stuff that you combined people also need to know. So if you are joining for the first time, welcome to all of you. If this is, if you're a regular, I can see some regulars already here, then welcome back. Make sure you tap the screen and like the live so that other people can join as well. And like I said, we're going to be doing some GCSE biology, okay? And this is going to be for all of you guys, all of you combined science and all of you triple science students. And we're going to be doing a topic that we've not done before. We're going to be doing some communicable diseases. Okay, so we're going to be looking at diseases, and we're going to be looking at the different pathogens involved to see, well, to learn what all the bits that we need to know for all of you combined and for all of you triple science students as well. So if you are here for the first time, make sure you are following. Hi, ARU. And make sure you guys are also liking the live so other people can join us as well and can join in improving their grades for their GCSEs. So let's get started. Like I said to you guys, this is going to be recorded as well, so I'll be putting this on my YouTube afterwards, so you guys will be able to view this and revise again if you miss anything. So don't you worry about that. It's all going to be recorded and put on my YouTube. So let's get started. Okay? So when we talk about communicable diseases, we're talking about diseases which can be spread, and they're caused by pathogens. And when we talk about pathogens, we're talking about things like bacteria. We're talking about things like viruses. We're talking about things like protists. And we're talking about things like fungi. Okay, so we're talking about bacteria, viruses, protists, and fungi. Okay, so we should know how all of these cause disease, first of all. So we should know what they do to harm us in the first place. Okay, now bacteria specifically, they will reproduce very quickly when they're inside us, and they release toxins. Okay, so they release toxins, and that's the poisonous chemical which causes damage to our cells. Okay, so these toxins damage our tissues and they make us feel sick and unwell. And that's how bacteria cause disease. Viruses, on the other hand, they behave a little bit differently. Okay, they don't just come into our body and start reproducing. They actually enter our cells. And when they enter our cells, they alter our cells' genetic information, and they therefore make our cells kind of like little factories for more viruses. So they kind of recode our DNA to form more viruses. And that's how they cause damage. So they invade cells, I would say, to make copies of themselves and cause cells to burst. Okay, because if you imagine one virus will take over one of the cells, okay, and then they alter our genetic information, and then cause many, many, many millions of viruses to be formed inside those cells will eventually burst because there's so many viruses inside them, and that cell is now dead, but those viruses are now free to invade other cells. We've got a question. How do they enter our cells if cell membranes control what goes in and out of the cell? Yeah, very good point there. Okay, so viruses, because they're designed in a way such that they're able to attach onto our cell membrane and force in, okay, they're not actually going through like a protein channel or anything that is designed there to stop things coming in and out. They're actually forcing their way in. Okay, so our cell membranes are specifically designed to allow certain molecules in or to stop certain molecules from coming in, but viruses don't go via that route. They make their own route into the cell. Okay, and that's the main difference there. And they're really tiny, so it's very easy for them to make that route into the cell. Yeah, so they are really cunning. It's really weird how viruses can be so cunning. Okay, protists. Protists are actually organisms, so they're living things. They're eukaryotic, and we know that they're transferred by vectors to humans, and they cause disease by, different protists cause disease in different ways, very different ways, but mainly they will attack a certain organ system in your body. Okay, so if you think about malaria and the liver, that's one of the main ones, the only one that we learn about at GCSE, right? And then fungi, again, fungi are very different. They, again, are organisms, living organisms. They have hyphae, which are these kind of almost like root-like structures, and they're able to also dig into our cells and grow on our cells, on our living tissue, and therefore feed off the nutrients and whatnot that our cells need. Okay, so very, very cunning things, these different types of pathogens, right? Now we're going to look at some examples of them. We should know how they're spread and how we should kind of limit the spread of them. So, and I think we've gone through that quite a lot before. So we're going to look at each type of protist in more detail. If you are here, make sure you are tapping like so that other people can also join. And if you're not following, make sure you are following too. And let's start looking at viruses. Okay, so viruses as a type of pathogen. So we say that viruses are not living, okay? And we say that viruses are not living because they do not have the 7 life processes that things that are living have. Okay, so we know the 7 life processes are represented by Mrs. Gren. We might know that, so like movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. All of those are the 7 life processes, and viruses do not have these 7 life processes. Okay, they have some, not all. And also, one of the main facts about viruses that we should know is that viruses require a host in order to do what they want to do. So viruses want to invade our cells, they want to reproduce, but they cannot do that on their own. They require a host cell. Okay, so we're going to go through details of these in a moment, so don't worry about examples. We'll be going through all the examples we need to know. All right, so don't worry too much about it. Now, we said earlier, viruses, the way that they work is they'll invade our cell, so invade host cell. Once they invade our host cell, they will reproduce rapidly, okay? And this is by inserting genetic info into host cells, okay? And this makes the host cell, so our body cell, produce copies of the virus. All right, so that's what's happening here. Yes, this will be on YouTube, I promise. Okay, so this is how viruses work. Okay, this is what they do. This is how they cause damage. And we should know some examples of viruses as well. One main example that I'm thinking of currently is measles. All right, so we should know that measles, very highly contagious virus, can be fatal. Okay, if it's not treated, it can actually kill you as well. And it's mostly seen in young children, especially when the child hasn't yet been vaccinated against it. Measles, we get that vaccine along with the mumps and rubella in the MMR vaccine. So usually we are protected against it, but some people, and I guess some students are not protected against it, right? And if you get measles, the first symptoms that you might see would be a fever, which is very common among all infections. And also the one that's specific to measles is a red skin rash. Okay, so you might get a red skin rash. And most of our bodies are well designed to fight off measles and we become well, right? But for those people who don't get treated and therefore don't have the antibodies to fight off the measles, they can develop actually some really serious diseases, right? There's something called encephalitis, which is brain disease that can cause you to die as well eventually. If we're talking about the less sinister effects, it could cause you to go blind. So yeah, it is really, really serious, this disease. Okay, how is it spread? Well, we should know that it's spread by inhalation of droplets of the virus. So droplets containing the virus. Where are these droplets coming from? Well, they'll be coming from coughs and sneezes from infected people. Coughs or sneezes. Okay, so it's extremely infectious. It travels in the air. Inhalation is breathing in. It's the breathing in of droplets containing the virus. Okay, very good. Now, how do we treat it? Well, there's no treatment for measles. Okay, the only thing you can do is you can try and prevent measles from spreading. And the main way of preventing measles from being spread to other people is if you've got it, obviously practice good hygiene, cough into a tissue or whatever. Make sure you're not coughing out into the open air for other people to get it, but also getting vaccinated. Well done. So by getting vaccinated, you are preventing yourself or reducing the likelihood of yourself getting measles and therefore reducing the likelihood of you passing it on to other people as well. And if you are vaccinated and you're around somebody who has measles, you're also less likely to get it, right? So that's why this is so important. So that's measles, okay? The other one that we should know about for humans is HIV. Okay, so the next one we should know about is HIV, otherwise known as, if you know what it's called, well done, human immunodeficiency virus. Okay, so human immunodeficiency virus. Now, HIV, very common nowadays, so we all kind of know about it. 50, 60 years ago, it wasn't as common and it was very taboo to kind of know about it, but now we should be educated about it. We should know it's a sexually transmitted disease. And yes, well done, Kyla, it can lead to AIDS. Okay, so if it's untreated, it can lead to AIDS, and AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Okay, means you acquire it, and it's an immunodeficiency syndrome. So, what else do we need to know? Well, we should know firstly what kind of symptoms we might expect for somebody who has HIV, right? So if you're infected with HIV, you might have, again, a fever at the beginning, a light fever. You might have fever-like symptoms, so just feeling unwell, swollen lymph nodes, things like that. Just general things, nothing really specific for HIV. It's just like, not really diarrhea, no. Yeah, AIDS is the condition you get as a result of the HIV virus. Okay? Yeah, being tired, just regular things that you feel when you're feeling sick. So there's nothing really specific with HIV, which is why for a lot of people it's really difficult to know when they've been infected with HIV. Right? So a lot of people go have HIV undetected for a very long time, unless they have a blood test. Okay, now once this fever is over and you feel like you're all better, that doesn't mean that the virus is gone. HIV is a virus that lives in your cells and it can stay dormant, so sleeping inside your cells, for a very long time. It can stay there for decades, okay? And it can also not affect you for decades. Okay, HIV is a bit more of a cunning virus where it doesn't necessarily need to act straight away and do what it does. Now, what does it actually do? HIV is a virus which destroys your immune cells, so your white blood cells. Okay, and therefore, if your body has all its white blood cells destroyed and it's not producing antibodies, it's not producing phagocytes, it's not producing any types of defense cells, well, then you should know that you're going to struggle, right? Because if you get anything, even like a cold or a flu or anything at all, or even a bacterial infection like salmonella, your body just doesn't have the immune cells to fight off that infection. So you could actually die, not because of HIV. You don't die from HIV. You die because you get something else like a flu or a cold, which would usually be treated by your body within a couple of days. But because you've got HIV, you've got no immune cells, your body simply cannot fight that off, and so you could die from it. That's what's so scary about HIV, right? There is no cure for it, okay? However, if somebody knows that they've been infected with HIV, they can take something called antiretroviral drugs, and we should know this. Antiretroviral drugs. And antiretroviral drugs, they halt, so they stop the HIV from developing any further. Okay, so it stops it from progressing onto AIDS. So the difference kind of between the HIV and the AIDS is that when you have acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, so AIDS, your white blood cells are no longer present. Your white blood cells are not functioning, not functioning because they're dead. All right, so these antiretroviral drugs stop the HIV from destroying your white blood cells and therefore from you getting AIDS. So somebody who has HIV would have to be on these antiretroviral drugs for the rest of their life. Okay? Now, what else should we know? We should know how it's spread. Okay, so how is HIV spread? Let's move over a little bit. So how is it spread? Feel free to shout out any suggestions. Yeah, they stop the virus from replicating any further, yeah. All right, so firstly, the main way in which HIV is spread is direct sexual contact. Okay, and contact with bodily fluids. Exchange of bodily fluids, rather, even. Okay, because it's not just contact, it's got to actually get into your system. So somebody's just suggested sharing needles. Nice one, Sophie. Sharing needles is a very common one. Very common amongst people who do drugs, for example, intravenously. So they're injecting drugs into their bloodstream and then maybe sharing the needles with other people, and therefore the virus is spreading between those people. As well as that, people who get tattoos, for example, in third world countries, quite often those third world countries can't afford to buy new needles every single time, so they'll try and sterilize the needles themselves. And if they sterilize it themselves, it might not actually get rid of the HIV on them if there is HIV on them, and that can be spread. Breastfeeding from a mother who has HIV. Okay, during childbirth, the baby is in contact with a lot of the mother's blood, childbirth. So it can also be transferred at that point too. All right. So those are all ways in which HIV can be transferred to other people. No, it's not 100% that the baby will get it at all. There's a chance and there's a greater likelihood if the mother is infected. Okay, any other questions? All right, like I said to all of you guys, this will be on my YouTube account. Okay, so you will be able to check this out. For those of you who don't already know, my YouTube account is Chris Tutor. So if you type that in, Tutor Chris, like this, and you click on that, you'll be able to subscribe and you'll be able to see all my videos there on YouTube as well. Okay, so there's all my videos. I've just an hour ago or so posted the last 2 that we did, and there's one more that I'm downloading now from what we did this morning, and there's also this one that will be on there as well. So yeah, Dom, you can watch it later on YouTube, absolutely. So I am getting an important call actually, so I'm gonna have to cut this live for a moment and then we'll continue in a little short while. Okay, so we'll continue from where we left off. Last thing we did was last thing we did was viruses, and we've gone through the main types of pathogens. So I'll release this in parts in YouTube. So part 1 is looking over all the pathogens and also looking at viruses and viral infections. So I'll be back in a moment, guys. But in the meantime, yes, I will be coming back. So don't worry. If you're not following already, make sure you are following. And in the meantime, if you haven't already, you can also check out my website. So for those of you who haven't yet checked it out, it is christuition.myshopify.com. So you can check it out on there. I'll aim to be back within half an hour or so, okay? So check out christuition.myshopify.com and use the code LIVE30, like I've told you guys before. And the papers are already all heavily discounted. Yeah, the science papers are AQA. There's combined ones and there's triple ones, okay? And the maths ones are Edexcel, OCR, and AQA. So yeah, use Live30. The papers are heavily discounted already, but they'll be even more discounted when you use this code. When you use this discount code, they come down to about 60, 70p per paper. So really cheap. But yeah, I'm just getting an important call. Let me make this call back again, guys, and I'll be with you guys in a few moments very soon. So take care, guys. See you in a short while.